What is up to the AuthorTube slash BookTube slash YouTube slash my subscriber community? How's it going out there? I hope this video is finding you well. My name, for those of you who do not know, is Andrew J. Stillman, and today I am actually going to be answering the AuthorTube newbie tag questions at last. I did my BookTube newbie questions last week. I've got to get the AuthorTube tag questions just out of the way. But before I get into that, I wanted to do a quick little end of the month wrap up and announce what I've got coming for November. Just for those of you who do not know, I've essentially created a book from scratch. My friend gave me some random genres. I put them in a generator. It came out with dark fantasy for me, and I've basically just used the rules of constructing a novel to make said book through a series of tutorials that I have posted on my channel so far. And next month I'm just gonna have my weekly writing vlog that is going to keep you all up to date with that. I will also be kind of reacting to slash revisiting the first blog that I ever wrote back in September of 2012, which introduced me to National Novel Writing Month, and I'm gonna reflect on my journey from the first time that I did Nano in 2012 to where I'm at now in 2020. And I will also be reacting to my very first writing videos that I gave during Nano 2014. So this month is actually going to be a month where I'm going to take some time to open up a little bit more and let some more personal content in. Even though I say I don't want this whole channel to be about me, I still need, I think, to have some things about me so that people who don't know who I am have a chance to get to know me and to understand what I have been through on this little writing journey. I will also be shaving off my whole beard and cutting off all my hair so that I can take place in No Shave November. I am trying to bring back this Andrew from when I was 25, about 1 week away from going to New Zealand for a year, and this is the Andrew that came of that trip. So we will see what happens at the end of the Andrew that goes through No Shave November National Novel Writing Month on YouTube, because I will be posting my entire first draft on my website through these daily writing prompts that I will also be giving during National Novel Writing Month that are designed to help you either connect to your character, your plot, or your setting anytime you're struggling throughout the month of November. They're just 3-paragraph little prompts that the idea is the later in the month we get, and the more you might get stuck, the more prompts you have to get you unstuck. And then on my website alongside of that, I am just going to be posting my responses to my own prompts as well as my daily writing. And on my weekly writing vlog, I will also be posting everything that I've written for the week, just because this was supposed to be an example. So yeah, I'm sharing my first draft. I'm not nervous about it. It's okay. It's not a big deal whatsoever. But the whole point is just so that you know that even if it's not a good first draft, you just write it. So anyway, I am done with all of that roundup stuff. So if you haven't hit the timestamps to get us going forward into the AuthorTube questions, let's just get right on into that. Okay, so first question. How did you find out about AuthorTube? Well, I did actually start, like I said, doing writing tutorial video advice kind of stuff like 6 years ago. I only made 5 videos back then, but now I came back and I found Meg Latour over at iWriterly, and that just kind of opened me up into realizing that now that's kind of like a whole huge thing, because I feel like when I was doing it back 6 years ago, it's not that nobody was doing it, but I guess I felt discouraged because I felt like nobody was gonna watch those type of videos, and instead of just carrying on with it, I quit. Number 2, what genres do you write in? So normally I would say fantasy, and even for this National Novel Writing Month book that I'm writing is also a dark fantasy, but that wasn't actually my choice. And my answer to this would now actually be that I had a great time telling someone to pick random genres for me, throwing them into a generator, and then building a book from that. So in the future, if it wasn't for National Novel Writing Month and doing tutorials kind of like this, I would love to do that that again and have it be kind of way more open without having like that 1 month time frame, you know? So if someone gave me like historical fiction or something, if I had the proper time that I would need to do the research for that kind of a book, I would totally love to be challenged with any type of genre. So in the future, we'll see how that goes. Next up, what is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? So part of the reason that this channel even really kind of came about was because in July I started writing what is the best book that I've ever written in my whole entire life. It was my 8th one, my 9th one. I don't really know how many I've written nowadays, but that book kind of, I took a Patrick Rothfuss approach, and I have both third person and first person in that, and that's been really fun for me too, because I actually really enjoy writing in first person, but it's harder to read first person sometimes, I think, just because, I don't know, it's all about the execution. But I talked about that enough in my BookTube Newbie tag, but if it's executed well, I like it, so I'm not gonna be about that this time. But as far as my category of story, I'm definitely more for adults more than children or middle-aged kind of books. I've always, I guess, been like that. Now that's easier than it was when I was 16 and trying to write about 30-year-olds, because now that I'm actually in my 30s, it makes it a lot easier to write about adults, so there's that. Next up, are you a plotter, pantser, or plantser? I like to let the book decide, and if you have seen my plotters versus pantsers video that I have up on my channel, that's kind of my answer there for that as well. I like to plot, but I think ultimately I usually come out as more of a plantser, because I just like to let the book breathe a life of its own and be whatever it wants to be. And I think that, you know, with that kind of mentality in mind too, the plotters versus plantsers thing, it's also kind of easy to get caught up in it, to think that you have to identify like that. So I just say let the book decide, and I usually end up as some version of a plantser, but I'm most likely gonna be a plotter in a normal sense. So next up, are you a self-published, published, or yet to be published author? So I did self-publish a book, actually. Here it is. It's called Immortality Awaits by Andrew J. Stillman. I'm pretty sure the Kindle version of this is still out there. The hard copy is out there for a gajillion dollars. I talked about that in my first video as well. I don't know why. This is the author's copy. Can't see that because it was too white, but I was very traumatized by publishing that book, and that's also gonna be something that I talk about more on my channel coming up, especially over this next month. I published that book when I knew it wasn't ready, and it basically sent me into a 8-year spiral of when I just thought that I was the worst thing ever. I thought that I was an insult to the writing and the publishing community by purposefully publishing something that I knew wasn't ready. And a lot of people who have read this book tell me that I'm really overthinking it. They say that it's really not as bad as I say at all, and I thank them for that, but at the same time, that's now been where my career has stalled for myself. It's just that I refuse to ever put out a book that I know is not ready yet again. And so even if I feel like it's ready, and then later on in life I look back and see my own growth in the same way that I have done now, like I can look back and be like, wow, I've grown a lot. But I was very traumatized by my decision to self-publish, and I have held myself back from anything, from any kind of publishing avenue. That's why now I have 8 freaking books without an idea as to what I'm gonna do with any of them, because I guess I just feel lost. And now part of what I'm doing with this, which I think is another question coming up, but part of what I'm doing with this now is challenging myself to be more open and vulnerable and to start sharing my work again. So next up, what publishing company, literary agent, and or printing company do you use or want to use? So if I ever got published by Tor, I could die happy, and I think that my top agent would be Eddie Schneider. I don't really know why, I just vibe with him, especially, or at least on Twitter. I like the kind of stuff that he tweets, and he has some pretty good books that he represents. He's also part of that whole Jabberwocky literary agency with Joshua Bilms, who represents Brandon Sanderson, who's one of my favorite writers. So I don't know, that would be, I think, kind of shooting for the stars, reaching for the moon kind of stuff. But if I ever had any of that happen, then maybe I could say I would die happy. So next step, what AuthorTube-related videos can we expect to find on your channel? Well, right now, obviously, we're talking about books and National Novel Writing Month. So far, I mean, these were my first attempts at video tutorials or really sharing how the novel writing process works. I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest, about how it's turned out from what I've done, because I was super nervous about just putting some genres into a generator and going from there, but it's been pretty exciting. But the thing is that going forward, I didn't and I don't want this channel to only be about books and writing books. So in the future, there's gonna be more about all sorts of different types of writing. I didn't even want to start with books until I realized, oh, it's National Novel Writing Month, so maybe I should just do that. I want to talk about poetry and songwriting and freelance writing and script writing and all sorts of different types of writing, because I personally just have experience in and interest in all of those types of writing. And outside of this whole publishing fiasco or whatever that I did for myself, I've also always kind of struggled to figure out what type of writer I wanted to be. And so that's why I have explored so much in all sorts of different types of writing. So in the future, I would like to cover more than just book writing. And I want to bring on writers of all different types to come on here, and I want to have interviews and discussions and all things like that, because even though I'm allowing for some personal content this month, I really don't want this to just be all about me. So there's that. Next question. When did you start writing? When I was 3. So I also said this in my BookTube Newbie tag question video. So my sister was in kindergarten. I was 3. We shared a room. I learned how to read by reading her lips when she learned how to read in kindergarten. And for me, I always say that my first toy was the typewriter that I found in my parents' bedroom that I still have out in my garage. But I guess technically I started writing in 2nd grade when I learned what a paragraph was. And I remember that day just because I remember that was the day that I learned the word describe. And in my BookTube video, I had mentioned that kindergarten teaching me the alphabet was the first kind of game changer when I learned the names of the letters. But learning what a paragraph was in 2nd grade was when I became like a writer. That was when I was like, oh, I'm gonna go write my first story. I think that's the next question. What was the first story you ever wrote? Okay, hold on, just one sec. Okay, so let's see here on this wild, so this is what I'm talking about from my 2nd grade years. I've got Forbidden Fire here. I've got, I don't know what that one, but also 2nd grade, Forbidden Fire. When I was 24, does this maybe look a little bit familiar? It's like it never changed. What else do I got in here? Tides of Darkness. Okay, hold on. That is the 2nd book that I wrote for this series here that no one has ever read, so apparently, that one stuck around with me for a while. Here we go. Andrew's story, Kingney. Oh, you can't see that. Kingney. K-I-N-G-N-E-Y. That was the first story I ever wrote in 2nd grade with, I don't remember anything except for the villain's name was Lord Fettelmjunkt, and I thought I was so cool for coming up with that. And I've remembered Lord Fettelmjunkt my whole life, and I've always wanted to bring him back into a story. So if he ever shows up into a story, now you know that I was all of 7 years old when I came up with that villain. So there we go. What authors have inspired your writing the most? Oh my gosh. I don't know. There's so many. Oh, this squeaky chair. I mean, I've read a lot of Stephen King. I've read Patrick Rothfuss, I've read J.K. Rowling, I've read Ted Dekker, I've read Brandon Sanderson. There's so many people, and then there's people that aren't necessarily even like big authors. I love my friend E.R. Dell. I've mentioned her before. R.L. King, I love her Alastair Stone series. I'm looking up at some of my books up there, but I don't know. It's really hard to answer that question. Truthfully, authors that I know personally really impact me positively because I like connecting with other writers. Obviously, it's really cool to see authors who have reached crazy margins of success and to look at them, you know, like the Stephen Kings or the Brandon Sandersons or the whoever's that have these New York Times bestsellers just flying off the shelves and everything. But I also really enjoy people who I feel like I can relate to, who are just kind of like me. They're just trying to write their stories and share them with the world and maybe make a name for themselves. So, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. Next up, do you schedule your writing sessions or write whenever you can? If I am in a position of being able to carry a habit, then I habitually usually write just right when I wake up. It's one of the first things that I do. If I'm kind of like traveling or if I'm all over the place or if my schedule's crazy, then I just write whenever I can. Next step, do you use a computer, typewriter, write by hand, or a blend? Well, so here's this, and this, and this, and this. So these are some of the stories that I've written throughout the years. This one especially is the big folder that I've brought out a couple times on this channel. It's for this book series that I don't know what I'm ever gonna do with, but I definitely like to handwrite things because I feel like it connects me better with the story. However, typing is faster. So nowadays I usually just use a computer. So I don't know, but definitely kind of a blend of all of it. Next up, what are you most looking forward to now that you're part of AuthorTube? A few things, actually. I'll just be honest. One thing I really am looking forward to, obviously, the community. I like connecting with other writers, as I've said a few questions ago, especially writers who I feel are in similar boats and situations as me. I also really enjoy sharing advice. So even from the people so far, I've only been around a little bit of time. It's not like I have a huge following, but the people who have been around so far, who have commented either on my videos or messaged me personally and said that they've gotten something out of what I've been doing, that makes me really happy. So from the writer side of things on this channel, I really wanted to influence and uplift and inspire people through my own journey. And I also want to push my own self to further my journey as well. Especially because, like I said earlier on, I stopped myself. After this whole fiasco, I really allowed fear and self-doubt hold me back, and I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm just hoping that I can help influence or inspire or push other people to just get right on in and to just write whatever they want and whenever they want. And that's why, again, I don't want to just have books on here, because I want to encourage anybody with any writing interest in them to just write it out. So I guess I'm just excited to see how my own journey unfolds, as well as the people that I connect with, and hopefully also the people that I inspire. So that takes care of all of that. Thank you so much for watching my AuthorTube newbie questions. I feel so weird answering them, and I said it as well in my BookTube newbie thing. I hate introducing myself. It just has to be how it is. This next month especially is going to be seeing a lot of pretty personal content from me as I reflect on my journey and write out this book that I've created on this channel. It's super weird that I've had no privacy with that book. I would just like to, I'm gonna put that out. This is more for me than anybody else, that I have not had a private moment with the book that I'm about to write, except for in each of the each 3 tutorials, character, plot, setting that I had one private moment of doing those exercises for myself outside of what I did on the camera, and everything else that I do for this book is going to be recorded and published daily. So I'm not gonna have any time alone with this book at all, and that is actually something that I'm purposefully doing as an experiment for another book that I'm writing. So all of this is gonna be super fun, at least for me to look back on in a few months. And if you've joined or will join or in the future join, you'll be able to look back and know exactly what I'm talking about. So next video I have is gonna be the first video that I have starting us into Nano. I can't believe that, but there it is. So thanks for having me on here for 2 months, and here's to however many more.